Before Malekith was the guardian of the Rune of Death, also known as Destined Death, there was another before him, someone who held the power of Destined Death, who shared that power with her followers, granting them the ability to kill gods. The draw and seduction of that power to face down gods was so powerful that it corrupted even those that currently served the Golden Order, those who were once guardians of the flame, seduced by the power of the Black Flame and its connection to the Rune of Death. Who was this former guardian of Destined Death? Well, I speak of course about the Gloam-Eyed Queen, also known as the Dusk Eyed Queen. Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming. My name is Hollow and today marks my very first Elden Ring lore video. I've actually been covering the Souls series since Dark Souls 1 and I've always loved the idea of making lore videos, but I must admit I've been overly concerned about making a mistake or getting speculation wrong. Finally, with Elden Ring and a push from Josh, I'm going to give it a go, so I hope this goes okay. To be very clear, the source of this information today comes from item descriptions found in-game. Then, speculation is made on my part to connect the dots and form a possible conclusion. Therefore, I don't want you to take this video as fact. It is my take on what the game has shown us and how I currently perceive that. Today, we're talking about the former holder of Destined Death, who was cast down by Malekith at the command of Marika. We are talking about the Godskins who served her, and the source of the Black Flame, which once held the power to defeat even gods. What happened to the Gloam-Eyed Queen? Who are the Godskins? Why were they cast down? And finally, who do I think the Gloam-Eyed Queen was? Or better, who do I think she is? Because I believe we've met her. Let's begin. We'll start with the Godskins, as the main and most direct encounter with this faction. These creatures appear all over the world in very interesting places. We have the Godskin Royal found alone in the Volcano Manor. We have the Godskin Apostle over in Dominula, the Windmill Village. There's the Tower in Caelid. Oh, and of course the duo in Farum Azula. What we have here are two strange, pale, fleshy creatures, wearing clothing made from patches of smooth skin, with the nobles wearing the seven-faced aprons as well. The Apostle robe tells us this: they once served Destined Death, and are in fact wielders of the god-slaying Black Flame. However, after their defeat by Malekith, the Black Blade, the source of this power was sealed away. They were once so powerful, they had the power of Destined Death, but no longer. Further, there's two types we know of. The Apostles, which are long and lanky, able to stretch their body, leading to various advantages in combat. Then the Nobles, who are rotund and round, thanks to the fat within the skin they wear. They're able to bloat themselves further and become like a ball as a weapon. The Nobles have another important detail to them though: the tail. The description of their robes actually explains this. Nobles are the most ancient apostles. They assimilated inhuman physiology, not unlike the Crucible, which was the Erd Tree in its primordial form. This is a reference to the Crucible, an ancient faction before the Erd Tree was actually inhabited by the Elden Beast. We know the Crucible Knights use incantations to let them become a bit beast-like, dragon-like, creating body parts temporarily for the benefit. It would seem these Godskin nobles understood the Crucible incantations fully and were able to morph their body permanently rather than just temporarily. Assimilated specifically means to take in and understand fully, and is regarded as similar rather than that they were always like that. There's a lot we could say when it comes to the Crucible, but that is not this video. To recap though, the Godskins once had the power of Destined Death, but no longer. There's two types of Godskins: the Apostles, which may be lowborn, and then there's the ancient Godskins known as the Nobles, which are highborn. When we look at the Godskin Stitcher, the weapon of the Nobles, we see that claim. Nobles possess skill with the sword unmatched by any lowborn. To me, that implies their crucible-like bodies allow for feats of speed that the lowborn simply can't achieve. Now, we should mention the followers of the Godskins. There's two groups: the Black Flame Monks and the Celebrants. First, the Celebrants, who we can find in the various windmill villages, where we also find a Godskin Apostle. Why here? A festival takes place in the windmill villages, seemingly never-ending. The women dance in a mad dance, and they laugh and cackle the whole time. We can learn a bit about them from their equipment. The Celebrants use sickles, cleavers, rakes, and the skulls. These weapons are tools used during the festivities, and are made from human bone. You'll notice there are no men in these villages, and again, there's the Godskin Apostle who waits at the top. The ghost at the entrance of the village tells us what we need to know. Much too late, we learn that they plan to skin this poor fellow. So I believe the festival is the act of skinning the men of the village and offering their skin to the Godskins, who wear the skin of the gods themselves. I can't really imagine it's got comparable use, it's just human skin, not god skin, but clearly the apostle is okay with this, so maybe they use it for something. But then we have the Black Flame monks as the other known followers of the Godskins. They are a faction of monks who were enthralled by the god-slaying power of the Black Flame. The former fire monks served the Erd Tree as guardians, watching over the Flame of Ruin, which, as we know, is found in the mountaintops of the giants and is used by Melina to burn the Erd Tree. However, the Black Flame monks are traitors to that faction and the Erd Tree. They abandoned their posts, enthralled, fascinated by the Black Flame, so much that they went against everything to gain its power. And as we can see, they can use it. There's one Black Flame monk waiting outside the church of Eagle, where we find the Godskin noble in the Volcano Manor. I believe these Black Flame monks gave up everything to learn the Black Flame from the Godskins, and now serve as their followers. However, they can't exactly claim they have the same power as the Godskins. They aren't wearing the skins of gods, nor are they of any noble birth, and they were never embraced by the Queen. Which leads to the next major question. Who do the Godskins serve? So it's time to talk about the Queen of the Godskins, known as both the Gloam-Eyed Queen and the Dusk Eyed Queen based on the descriptions of the items in game. It is possible though that the Dusk Eyed Queen is simply a mistranslation or mistype, since every other description but one calls her the Gloam-Eyed Queen, so I'll refer to her as that. Starting with her very sword then, which we find in the Tower of Caelid, which has that possible mistranslation on it. The Godslayer's greatsword is the sacred sword of the Gloam-Eyed Queen, who controlled the Godskin apostles before her defeat at the hands of Malekith. From the Black Flame protection incantation, we learn that the apostles, each and every one of them, were embraced by this Gloam-Eyed Queen, granting them the Black Flame and its protection, its power. From the Scouring Black Flame incantation, we learn that the Black Flame could actually slay gods, but when Malekith sealed Destined Death, the true power of the Black Flame was lost. Not only did the Gloam-Eyed Queen have the power of Destined Death then, she was able to share it with others, which naturally she shared with the Godskins, who she created. Via the Godskin swaddling cloth talisman, we learn that the Queen would cradle the newborn apostles, swaddling them in this cloth. Soon, they would become death to the gods. However, when Malekith defeated her, he took from her the power of Destined Death, sealing it away, and in doing so, sealed the true power of Black Flame as well, no longer imbued with the power of Destined Death. So by defeating her, he actually weakened the Godskins to such a degree that their Black Flame could no longer harm gods, making his victory over them absolute. It is no wonder that there are so few around at this point. Therefore, the Gloam-Eyed Queen led the Godskins. She had the power of Destined Death in the form of the Black Flame. She was able to share that power with her followers, who she created, but she was then defeated by Malekith, who took Destined Death and sealed it. In turn, Black Flame was weakened so much that it could no longer harm the gods, and the Godskins were defeated. But why? Why did Marika command Malekith to do this? And what or who was the Gloam-Eyed Queen? It's fair to say that the power to kill gods is definitely a threat to the gods, and therefore taking that threat out makes sense, but things get complicated when we read this. From the Black Flame ritual incantation, we can read this. The Gloam-Eyed Queen was an Empyrean, chosen by the Fingers. She was an Empyrean, literally selected by the Fingers to wield a great rune, likely the Rune of Death. The Fingers function as envoys for the Greater Will, which is enforced by the Elden Beast, meaning the Gloam-Eyed Queen was at very least, at a time, serving under the Erd Tree, selected to be the carrier of Destined Death, in the way that Malekith became its guardian next. An Empyrean is one who can be a container for the Elden Beast, aka the Greater Will or the Elden Ring. An Empyrean must be born from a single god, such as Melania and Miquella, or Ranni. We learn that Marika and Radagon are one later in the game. Either they became one or always were, and their children, Melania and Miquella, are Empyrean, meaning they were born when Marika and Radagon were already joined. Ranni is also an Empyrean, but Rykard and Radahn, her brothers, are not. Why Ranni is then is a whole other topic I can't get into now, but just keep her in mind. Ultimately, the Gloam-Eyed Queen, being Empyrean, means she comes from one god, and is a possible carrier for the outer gods. That makes her a major player in the lands between. It stands to reason then that someone that important could be the holder of the Rune of Death. And while we can't say for sure who the god that birthed her was, we only know of one that would suit, and that would be Marika. Let's progress forward with that being the theory then, that the Gloam-Eyed Queen was the child of Marika, making her an Empyrean. Why would Marika send Malekith against her own daughter? Unfortunately, there's no concrete info on this, so I've got to speculate. It could be that Marika just needed the Rune of Death for her plans, and that meant her daughter was just a victim. It could be that the Gloam-Eyed Queen rebelled and wanted to go against her fate of being an Empyrean, rebelling against the gods, and had to be brought down because of that. After all, it's not the first time we've seen that storyline, an Empyrean going against her fate. Once again, I'm referencing Ranni. We do know that the flame monks who served the Erd Tree went against their own faction and became traitors to serve the Black Flame and use it themselves. We know that the Godskins, created by the Gloam-Eyed Queen, kill gods and wore their skin. We know that the Godskins were cradled by the Godskin swaddling cloth, the source of which must have come from somewhere, killing gods obviously, and I believe that was the beginning perhaps of the Godskins. So, my theory is that the Gloam-Eyed Queen rebelled. She didn't want to be the next carrier or didn't agree with the Outer Gods, much like Ranni. So she began to create her own Godskin faction and gave them the power of the Black Flame so they could kill gods. In turn, the Godskins created their own followers, sharing the power of Black Flame with them. So, the Gloam-Eyed Queen was creating her own army, one that she was the queen of. Using this god-slaying army then, she could hunt the gods and maybe create a new order, just like Ranni wants to do. But was in the end defeated by Malekith, who took and sealed the power to slay the gods, ending this whole god hunt before it could really succeed. I like to think that was possible because it happened before the god-slaying army was even ready. Maybe those traitors, the Black Flame monks, were too obvious and Marika figured things out. But who was the Gloam-Eyed Queen? Or rather, who is she? So now it's time for a popular theory. It's hard for me to credit this, I wish I could, because a lot of people have talked about this, made videos, big discussions, and I don't even know where I first heard it. But I like the theory, so we're going to go over it. A lot of people, myself included, like to think Melina is the Gloam-Eyed Queen. Melina, the mysterious woman, who offers you an accord at the very start of the game, granting you Torrent. Let's start with Ranni. Ranni destroyed her body using Destined Death and used a puppet container to house her soul. That puppet is fashioned after a specific character, the Snow Witch. The Snow Witch was Ranni's secret mentor, who Ranni encountered while very young. This is a witch versed in cold sorceries. She practiced heretical sorcery and then taught that to Ranni. Ranni, as we see her in game then, she is fashioned after the Snow Witch. She looks like the Snow Witch. So when you see Ranni now as this puppet, that isn't what Ranni actually looks like. We can find Ranni's actual body at the top of the tower in Altus Plateau. Burned as it is, we can still see traces of her original red hair, just like her brothers, Radahn and Rykard, from her father, Radagon. So, Ranni's form looks like the White Witch. And who does the White Witch look like? Well, she looks exactly like Melina. This has to be for a reason. I like to speculate that Ranni encountered the White Witch not entirely by accident and was taught the heretical arts as well as other things that led her to go against the current order as an Empyrean, rallying against her fate as a carrier. Just like the Gloam-Eyed Queen. Back to Melina then. Melina, who looks just like the White Witch, appears before us, and we learn that she is searching for her purpose, given to her by her mother inside the Erd Tree long ago. These are the words she said. The obvious mother in the Erd Tree? Marika. Melina appears to be the daughter of Marika then. And they love to do this in the game, right? You got Ranni, Radahn, Rykard, these are the children of Radagon. Then we have Melania, Miquella, and Melina, children of Marika. It fits very well. Melina told us that she was searching for a reason that she still lives, despite the fact that she is burned and bodiless. Burned and bodiless. Now I want to note that just like Ranni, when you finish speaking to Melina, she fades to a deep blue mist into nothing, which Torrent does too when you leave him. So it appears Ranni and Melina have similar powers. Maybe that's because Melina taught Ranni. As we see clearly during the cinematic in which Melina sacrifices herself to burn the Erd Tree, she is already covered in scars, burn marks on her body, so she wasn't lying. If we take a look at her face, her left eye is closed, sealed by a black crow's foot, which, by the way, crows are often associated with death. She doesn't have a physical body anymore, but she can still appear before us in this form, burned and with an eye sealed. Finally, we look at the madness ending of the game. In this, Melina warns us not to let the three fingers mark you, not to take the path of madness, or she'll leave us. When we still do that, she warns us that if we go on to the Frenzied Flame ending, she will hunt us. And after the Frenzied Flame ending, she does exactly that, entering the Erd Tree after we've left and witnesses Torrent's final moments. She claims now that destined death comes for you. This indicates she must have the power of destined death in some form, and she certainly looks crazy now. Something's different about her. In that moment, her closed eye is open, and her normal eye is now pale as if blinded. The other eye, though, which was previously always closed and sealed, is open and changed. It glows a deep blue or even purple. Once again, the name of the Queen of the Godskins is the Gloam-Eyed Queen. Further, we refer back to the description of the Godskin HUD. These apostles once served destined death. After Malekith defeated them though, the source of their power was sealed away. So, if you think about it, the normal method to play the game is to sacrifice Melina and burn the tree, allowing us access to Farum, and then eventually we defeat Malekith. But if we do the madness route and burn the tree ourselves, we don't need to sacrifice Melina, do we? So that means she's actually alive when we defeated Malekith and removed the seal on destined death. So it's reasonable to assume at that moment the Godskin's power was released. And if Melina is the Gloam-Eyed Queen, she would be restored at that time. With the power of destined death restored, she can hunt you using it, which is perhaps why her eye is now open, no longer sealed, and the Gloam colour returned to her eye. So, is Melina the Gloam-Eyed Queen?
I will seek you as far as you may travel. To deliver you what is yours. Destined death.
But there you have it, my very first lore video on the Souls series. It took me over 8 years to kind of work up the courage, I guess. I hope I've made some interesting connections for you, or at very least the video was entertaining. As someone who really wanted to get into lore videos for a long time, I always stopped myself because I thought there was no point talking about what others have already made good videos on. And even this topic has been talked about in many ways. But I want to give my own perspective and add to the current speculation if I can. And yeah, it's been a challenge to make this video, so if you would support it with just a like, I would appreciate that. Thank you to Josh for basically forcing me to finally do this, and if it goes okay, maybe I can make more videos like this. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thank you for watching, and see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.